Here's a clip of Mehdi Hasan. He has a former Trump official, Miles Taylor, on. This guy, Miles Taylor, has been all over the news over the past, ever since he left the Trump administration.
Cashing in.
And there's a lot of people like that, a lot of Republicans who, and for the most part, I haven't been terribly impressed by any of them in terms of their role in creating the monster that exists.
Bill Barr resigned after Trump had lost the election and is now going on television as like, he's such a threat and this is X, Y, and Z. I mean, he only resigned after he knew he'd be out of a job in a few weeks and did all of like the horrible stuff in the lead up to it.
Of course.
So,
total reformation, like cover your ass tour. Yeah. Here is Mehdi Hasan. And to be clear, there is a lot of stuff that was adopted during the Trump administration. It's still being carried out by the Biden administration. Some things improved, other things not at all. Here's Mehdi Hasan.
You mentioned the abuse of migrants as political pawns. The Guardian describes you as having the zeal of a convert in its review of your new book, because you did serve in the Trump administration before becoming this outspoken Trump critic. In an administration which you yourself say in your new book that there were, quote, no heroes, only survivors, you say. In fact, you were chief of staff to Kirstjen Nielsen at the Department of Homeland Security during the child separation controversy when migrant kids were effectively kidnapped from their parents, put in cages. And an investigation by BuzzFeed News in 2020 found that you actively worked to push through that policy, and they got hold of internal DHS emails showing how integral you were in coordinating family separation efforts and defending it to the public. How do you square that, Miles, with this public opposition you now have to authoritarianism and Trumpism? And I have to ask, would you like to apologize tonight to the parents and kids whose lives were permanently damaged by family separation during that Trump first term?
Well, it's actually incorrect, Mehdi. I was not Kirstjen Nielsen's chief of staff at the time. I was actually the advisor for counterterrorism and intelligence and later became deputy chief of staff. But I want to go back in time even further. I was never a MAGA person. I didn't vote for Donald Trump for president. I tried to help with Paul Ryan's efforts to create a Trump inoculation plan to prevent him from being the nominee. Clearly, we failed spectacularly. And there was no one I knew that thought going into the Trump administration was going to be beneficial to a career. It was clear that it was career suicide to go in. But mentors of mine like John Kelly, I think were very attuned to the danger. And I did think that it was really important to try to protect the Department of Homeland Security from his whims. Now, what I will say about the family separation policy is, yes, I was actively involved in trying to get them not to implement the family separation policy. Now, you can love or hate Kirstjen Nielsen, but the real story, and people should go read
Miles,
the Atlanta.
I got to jump in, Miles. The BuzzFeed reporting, please. The BuzzFeed reporting shows the exact opposite, and they speak to Trump officials, former Trump colleagues of yours. You say, and I quote, "I sat within inches of Miles Taylor during meetings solely focused on zero tolerance policy, and he was not vocally opposed to the weighty decisions before us."
Well, Mehdi, a lot of those people probably weren't people who got to actually be in the room for the real conversation. So I would urge people to.
You just said I sat next to them.
But like in that BuzzFeed article, which I scanned, he said that it was, quote, the honor of a lifetime to serve as the DHS chief of staff under Secretary Nielsen, which he said in his resignation letter. So it was a resignation that had nothing to do with, on its face at least, or what he professed to the public, the substance of what was done with her, or working with her at least. He had high praise for her. So it's just it would be odd if he had such high praise for her that he was so secretly in opposition to what was being implemented by his department. But we can keep going.
And he was not vocally opposed to the weighty decisions before us.
Well, Mehdi, a lot of those people probably weren't people who got to actually be in the room for the real conversation. So I would urge people to go read probably the most definitive history of family separation, again, written by Caitlin Dickerson at The Atlantic, that shows that as much, look, love or hate Kirstjen Nielsen, when they took a vote at the White House about whether to move forward with Jeff Sessions' family separations policy at DOJ, and I wasn't there in those meetings, but she was the only person to vote against it because it was evident, Mehdi, that it was going to be a humanitarian catastrophe. So despite the fact that I knew nothing about immigration policy, what was my involvement? I helped co-write the executive order to end it. The moment after that policy became public, to me, It was horrific. It was a reason people needed to resign.
So just to
from
be
the
clear, as we're out of time. We're out of time, and I do want to give you the opportunity. Just to be clear, you don't regret not resigning at the time in protest, and you don't think you have anything to apologize for today.
Oh, no, I regret that we didn't get multiple cabinet secretaries not to resign. But no, the policy was not my responsibility. The policy was the president of the United States, the attorney general, and then ultimately a secretary couldn't stop it. Now, I'm glad it was reversed, but it was one of the most horrific humanitarian catastrophes of the administration. It was preventable. And what I'll warn Mehdi is in a second term, Donald Trump wants to bring a policy like that back and put it on steroids.
Good German.
Let's check in on his mentor, who this guy sort of based his whole entree into the career. Why don't you Google John Kelly and Caliburn, the company that he joined after leaving the Trump administration. This mentor, this guiding light for this guy. Let's see what John Kelly. Do you have this? There should be like a CBS story. Let's pop this up.
Oh my God.
Former Trump chief of staff joins board of migrant shelter operator.
Oh, little on the nose.
Well, who better? He has something like 8,000 people working for him, and he's making all his money as a board of director on this place. Like, I mean,
for a private migrant shelter facility. Great.
Yeah.
Shelter is a nice word for cage.
Right.
Yeah,
For-profit prison. But like, it is amazing how conservative victimization even extends to these examples, because I mean, he's a victim of his own career choices as well, apparently. Like, it's just everything happens to him as opposed to him being clearly an active and ambitious. He's only 35 or 36 years old. He was previously on like a staffer, a political appointee in the Bush administration, then at the DHS, then under Trump. So he made clear active choices in his career to get to this point.
It's very easy after the fact to say, like, I knew this was going to be bad for my career and I did it anyway, when actually you probably were hoping that it was going to be really good for your career.
No, now this is what he thinks is good for his career. This is a part of like, he's selling a book. And Mehdi did such a great job because every time those guys come on cable news, they expect to be able to say the same thing about Trump and that they don't like him. And then they have a willing audience that's like, oh, what a brave Republican speaking out against Trump. Yeah. And Mehdi asked him, like, actually substantively, do you regret what you did? Because this isn't just about like, we don't like orange guy. This is about how you affected human beings.
And I always think, like, with any of these guys, it's like, I guess I'm kind of interested in your opinions about policy or whatever, but like, I'm more interested in you. How about just wholesale publishing your email archive so we can see all of your public-private correspondence with these people instead? And then after that, maybe we can make a determination of how much we give a crap about how much you care about or what you care about certain policy.